Edition of News Tonight here on UBC TV this Tuesday, the 4th day of March 2025. We're coming to you live online and on air from Broadcasting House here on Nile Avenue. Now, the Vice President, Jessica Lupo, has assured the heads of orphanage homes that the government will support them in giving children a brighter future. She was visiting UWESO orphanage, where she witnessed firsthand the organization's efforts. We have more in this story.
Uganda Women Efforts to Save Orphans, UWESO, was established in 1986 by First Lady Janet Kataha Museveni to care for children orphaned by the 1986 war. On her visit to the home, the Vice President Jessica Lupo commended UWESO's work in caring for street children and orphans. Lupo stated that the government is willing to entrust the center's authorities to ensure they receive a budget to initiate projects to raise funds for the children's care.
A proposal for government to come in now to create and provide a budget in order to resuscitate the income-generating activities of UWESO, but also to support the ongoing programs of UWESO, which among others were affected by COVID-19.
Lupo appreciated the First Lady for the visionary work of initiating this organization that cares for orphans and street children.
Have provided a lifeline to thousands of orphaned and vulnerable children across Uganda. Today, we celebrate the incredible impact of UWESO, a dream that has not only survived but flourished.
State Minister for Youth and Children Affairs Balam Barugahara hailed UWESO for curbing the challenge of street children in Kampala, rehabilitating and getting them back to school.
This has transformed many, including one of my friends called Honorable Javira Semwanga, who's a member of parliament now representing people of Rakai, and the Pastor Wilson and others. So the cause of these problems has been due to domestic violence in some homes.
Currently, the center cares for 114 children.
So using your good office, I recommend that you may consider either through you or through chairman to see that we support them and this dream comes to a reality so that they get portrait to supplement on our children's nutrition.
But it's also about the hope, the love. And I believe that it requires concerted effort to address these issues.
UWESO faces various challenges, including a lack of funds following the suspension of USAID assistance from the US government.
UWESO, our mission has always been to strive to improve the quality of life of vulnerable children and youth, for them to survive and thrive. To survive and thrive.
To thank the First Lady, Mama Janet Museveni, the Minister for Education and Sports, for the job well done. She's our champion. She's a great mother. She's a savior and a good Samaritan.
The center is also one of the primary places where the Kampala Capital City Authority, KCCA, takes children rescued from the street.
Now, the Prime Minister of Uganda, Robina Nabanja, has cautioned engineers to desist from unnecessary delays, exaggerated costs and shoddy workmanship. Nabanja said such unprofessional behavior have cost government and people have lost trust in it. She was speaking during the World Engineering Day celebrations at Hotel Africana here in Kampala.
Engineers from Uganda, Kenya and Tanzania gathered at Hotel Africana in Kampala to celebrate World Engineering Day. Prime Minister Robin Nabanja was the chief guest. Lack of integrity and unprofessionalism by engineers in some government projects dominated the Prime Minister's address. She said that deliberate delays by engineers in project plans and reviews are some of the most unwanted behaviors that their body needs to address.
Also noted challenges that threaten the integrity of the engineering profession, such as shoulder work. I've told you about the collapsing structures. They could be done by private people, but we are supposed to supervise them, isn't it? Delays caused by design reviews. I remember fighting with Kampala Capital State Authority engineers. Do we have those engineers from Kampala Capital State Authority here?
She also complained about exaggerated costs and shoddy workmanship by engineers in the country, which has tarnished the image of the ruling NRM government.
Does it need a prime minister to force herself into the consultant's office to have these designs handed over to the contractors? Suppose I had not gone to that office. That now means they would be still undergoing designs to have our roundabouts constructed, and I want to say this must stop. This must stop. Now that you invited me here, let me tell you in your face that Ugandans are tired.
Nabanja decried the delays in starting the construction of the standard gauge railway SGR, which is already in use in other East African community states like Kenya and Tanzania.
From Tororo, Busia to Kampala, on this other side of the road, there is a depression, meaning the road is already failing. But if we can remove all that, all those heavy trucks from the road, that means our roads will last for long, isn't it? But we are taking so long, moving here, consultants, to start on our SGR.
The chief engineer, Stephen Chiwanuka, acknowledged the concerns raised by the Prime Minister regarding the integrity of some engineers. However, he said the engineering bill 2024, which is currently before Parliament, will help address these issues.
We are going to enhance the coordination, so that once you have a project, you work with your other, you work with other institutions to make sure that there's better coordination. For example, she has talked about the standard gauge railway, about the importance of doing what? Of making sure that the Ministry of Energy is incorporated. So I think going forward, we are going to make sure that there is better coordination.
World Engineering Day is celebrated every 4th of March after being declared in 2019. Philip Aguta for UBC News in Kampala.
Now, opposition members of parliament have expressed dissatisfaction with the Electoral Commission for turning a blind eye to the escalating violence and impunity surrounding the Kawempe North by-election. They believe the Commission should act responsibly by announcing the winner instead of allowing innocent citizens to suffer. This comes after violent clashes during a national unity platform rally at Kawempe grounds, where party members were subjected to tear gas and beatings by security personnel.
The atmosphere in Kawempe North is increasingly tense as the by-election day, set for March 13, 2025, draws nearer. Candidates have been holding rallies to engage with voters since their nominations. However, the presence of heavy security, including the military, Joint Anti-Terrorism Task Force, JAT, and Special Forces Command, SFC, has raised concerns about undermining the democratic process.
Very absurd what is happening in Kawempe by-election. this is Uganda and Uganda belongs to the people.
Members of Parliament are questioning why the electoral process is militarized, with the use of excessive force against civilians.
It's very, very unfortunate that such heavy election violence is still taking place in the 21st century.
But arresting members, first beating them, you take them for no sufficient cause is not proper. The biggest question here, Mr. Speaker, is the Electoral Commission still in control of these elections?
Over 20 Ugandans, including opposition MPs like Nyeko Derrick for Machinde East, Nkunyinji Mwada, Chadondo East and Abdallah Chiwanuka were detained during the scuffle with security agencies.
Mr. Speaker, I raise this because these are people who should be here representing their constituents. But now they are being held by police just because they were found putting on a red attire.
Many foot soldiers have been beaten up, taken away, whisked away in drones. We do not know where their whereabouts.
Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Thomas Tayebwa, condemned the actions of security operatives, stating that such behavior tarnishes the country's image.
What's wrong? Who provoked this? And sometimes, I think these are people who even against the state. I don't think, like that journalist whom I saw being operated in the eye, I don't think the person who did it loves his government. Because they are destroying the image of the government. Some overzealous people. I really ask myself, what would provoke you to get a journalist and you hit them?
Commissioner of Parliament Matthias Mpoga stated that this situation is a collective responsibility for all Ugandans, especially Parliament, to end the culture of impunity.
The pretense must stop. If we are intentional on building a democracy, we must speak to what we are dealing with. If you don't want elections, do away with them.
MP Barnabas Tinkasimire called for everyone involved in the violence to be held accountable.
Security forces should know that they are on the spotlight. These people who are commanding and leading such maiming of our people, they are on the spotlight. Records are taking place. They will pay for themselves.
Top TV journalist Miracle Ibrahim was injured by the security operatives while covering the events at the Kawempe North by-election. His assault highlights the growing concern over the treatment of media personnel during such political events. Rebecca Nantongo, Dan Lugemwa, UBC News.
Now, East African Community Affairs ministers from the EAC partner states are set to hold a joint meeting with their counterparts from the Southern African Development Community, SADC, to resolve the ongoing conflict in Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo between the M23 rebels and the Congolese forces. The first Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for East African Community Affairs, Rebecca Alitwala Kadaga, hinted at the meeting while addressing the media on recent developments in the EAC at her office at Kingdom Kampala building.
It has now been a month since M23 rebels took control of the lucrative town of Goma and other subsequent towns in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC. Despite Congo being a member state of the East African Community, the body has not deployed to bring the conflict to an end as it did when the M23 rebels captured the smaller town of Bunagana in 2022. According to the first Deputy Prime Minister, Rebecca Kadaga, this has not been possible due to SADC's involvement.
So each of us has a government. Now, in order to go to Congo, you have to seek permission. We were there, as you recall, we were there for 7 months as the East African Regional Force, and the peace had come back to Congo for 7 months. The Goma airport was working, people were back in their homes. Then, before the elections, the president told us that we don't want the East Africans here. So they said we are giving a deadline, 8th of December, you should leave. So we left. Then they brought the SADC. So as a foreign state, it's their right to bring the SADC. So actually, SADC is now in charge there.
Kadaga adds that the planned joint meeting between ministers from the East African Community Affairs and their counterparts from the Southern African Development Community, SADC, on the DRC conflict will chart the way forward.
You know, although we are, well, that's how I was talking about the confederation. If we had a federal government, that matter would have been resolved. We would have just said, let's go in. But we still have the government of DRC, the government of Uganda, the government of Rwanda, government of Burundi, government of Sudan, DRC, Federal Republic of Somalia.
She also mentioned that the failure of some member states to pay their subscriptions to the community affects its operations.
We had wanted sanctions against countries that are not contributing. But when you go to the meeting and the same people are also there within the meeting, they don't agree to what you're proposing because they're also there in the same meeting. So, so it has become difficult. But I hope that one of these days we shall, and this will go up to the high level that not everyone agrees with sanctions. But I know that they have been working in other international organizations effectively. If you don't pay, you don't speak. If you don't pay, you don't get positions. But our heads of state believe that we should handle one another with a bit of decorum. So that's where we are. If you had the authority, I would have done other things.
The first Deputy Prime Minister and the Minister for East African Community Affairs, Rebecca Kadaga, was briefing the media on progress in East African integration, decisions and directives from the Council, the outcomes of the recent EAC Judicial Conference in Kigali, and advancements in resolving the DRC conflict. Philip Aguta for UBC News in Kampala.
Thanks, Philip, for that story there. Now, Upe County legislator in Amudat district, Mika Lolem Kasile, has appealed to Nakapiripirit leaders to treat the Pian Pokot conflict in Tokora sub-county with care. He says people of Tokora use their vulnerability of seeking for water and pasture to steal their animals. Lolem says 3rd Division Commander Brigadier General Wilberforce Serunkuma has deployed to secure water sources, although Pokot animals are still being targeted. Take a watch.
The Pokot vulnerability in seeking pasture and water for their animals has become an issue in Karamoja and Sebei subregions. The Pokot are natives of Amudat district, which borders Nakapiripirit, Nabilatuk and Sebei subregion in Uganda and West Pokot in Kenya. During the dry period, the Pokot pastoralists cross into Nabilatuk and Nakapiripirit to Sebei region districts of Kwen to look for pasture and water. This year, the Pokot from Amudat and West Pokot in Kenya are grazing in Tokora sub-county Nakapiripirit district, but are accused of moving with illegal guns and stealing animals. Leaders and locals of Nakapiripirit districts want Pokot pastoralists out.
Karamoja, mostly in Tokora sub-county. As we talk now, many people have died. They have lost their lives because of insecurity, because of raids. And who are the people bringing raids? Or who are the people who brought these incidents? It is the Pokot.
Killed one called Longoli the day before yesterday. He was grazing his own animals and they found him and they killed him instantly. Now
the Tokora people are claiming that there was somebody who was killed. But I'm asking them, who killed the 2 Pokots? There were 2 Pokots, innocent Pokots who were coming on a motorcycle from Namaru. They are going to sell their maize. But they were cut.
Upe County MP Mika Lolema Kasili accuses Tokora sub-county of raiding Pokot animals.
I border Nabilatu and I border Nakapiripirit. The only disturbing community that disturbs my community are the people of Tokora sub-county. We have lost 341 cows. And they are just on top of that hill called Tokora, December and January.
So far, 3rd Division bosses have deployed at water sources.
And I want to thank the 3rd Division commander who said the UPDF must be now deployed in the watering source. Like now my side, when my community go and bring water near Tokora, the UPDF must be at the river When these cows drink water, they come back, and then the UPDF can come back with their soup.
Mika Lolem appeals to local leaders and area legislators to play their roles.
You know, as a leader, you need to tell your people. You need to advise them what is wrong, what is good. The leaders accept without sieving this message and check that who has made wrong. Because
meanwhile, 3rd Division Commander Brigadier General Wilberforce Serunkuma pledges to restore the cordon and search mechanism to recover all guns in illegal hands.
We say they are guns. You say no. All of you say no. The answer could be, let us cross-check ourselves.
Starting November to March, most water sources in Abnad district dry up, forcing the Pokot to Nablatuk, Nakapiripirit and Kwen districts searching for pasture and water. Aviana Francisco and Maureen Iga, UBC News.
Health sector, civil society organizations and networks of people living with HIV are urging government to consider passing an emergency supplementary budget. They argue that this budget would fund key health interventions following the halting of support from the United States government. The civil society is concerned that without strong interventions, there will be a sudden rise in the number of new HIV infections, as we hear in this story.
Essential health programs affected by the termination of USAID funding include HIV testing, prevention and treatment, as well as TB and malaria. The civil society organizations working on health alongside networks of people living with HIV are advising the government to consider passing an emergency supplementary budget to fund key health interventions.
The emergency supplementary budget, how much has been raised? Then the gifts in kind. His Excellency is on record. He made people really contribute willingly. Gifts in what? In kind. The posho we need, the rice we need, the ARVs we need. All these things can be donated, and people see that yes, an emergency is being handled.
The civil society organization has proposed the formation of a multi-sectoral task force on HIV and the operationalization of the HIV Trust Fund to mobilize resources for HIV programming.
We urge the government to expedite the establishment of a national health insurance scheme to ensure equitable access to quality health care for all Ugandans. And also, as civil society organizations, we are fully committed to supporting the government in the process by providing technical expertise, mobilizing communities, and fostering multi-sectoral and stakeholder engagement to ensure the success and implementation of the scheme.
This integration, effectively planned and resourced, could help sustain the access to essential health services for millions of people living with and affected by the disease, pregnant mothers, children, and other vulnerable groups.
You know, you want to make America great again. You can really make great again by keeping us great with you, not forsaking us at the time we need you most, when our governments need you most.
Uganda has an estimated 1.4 million people living with HIV, with 1.3 million accessing life-saving antiretroviral therapy, ARVs. According to health experts, the government will require 300 billion Ugandan shillings annually for the purchase of ARVs. Adia Nakote, UBC.
Now, Makerere University has introduced an initiative to support students who fail to raise tuition. The Vice-Chancellor, Professor Barnabas Nawangwe, announced at the university that the support to students starts immediately. At least 66 students are beneficiaries. Now, every year, over 1,000 students at Makerere University fail to complete their courses due to financial constraints.
Makerere University Council has rolled out work-study program to support students earn and pay their tuition. Financial difficulties have remained a major hurdle for many students at Makerere University, leading to high dropout rates. The Vice-Chancellor, Professor Barnabas Nawangwe, says the initiative is designed to help students generate income to cover their tuition fees in time.
So far under this scheme, 56 students were recruited as hall attendants and office attendants. Their roles including cleaning and assisting in administrative duties. Another 10 were attached to private company as sales representatives. Students work part-time with flexible hours that do not conflict with their academic commitments. And of course, this is a requirement for those who apply. First of all, they must be in a good academic standing, and the work must not jeopardize their studies. They receive a modest salary. Well, this is not really modest. They are being paid 1.2 million per month.
Besides, Mackay University will also support students with disability.
The policy on disability and the safeguarding policy, which were approved recently, will go a long way in supporting students to enjoy their stay on campus.
The university has a comprehensive policy to ensure students with disability receive necessary support without having to move between buildings.
So they just go to that one center, and there will be an official to get their complaints or attend to their challenges, and it is those officials that now will move to the various offices to make sure that the issues that affect the students are resolved.
These interventions are aligned with Mackay University's strategic plan 2020-2030, which prioritizes digital transformation to establish the institution as a research-led, technology-driven university. Joseph Buule, UBC.
Inspector General of Government Betty Kamya addressed non-state actors at the Audit House here in Kampala, painting a vivid picture of corruption's impact on the country. She compared it to a beast that, if left unchecked, will ultimately defeat and destroy all of us.
Resources meant to uplift millions from poverty and improve infrastructure are instead lining the pockets of a few corrupt individuals. These were the remarks of IGG Betty Kamya while addressing non-state actors at the Audit House in Kampala.
Uganda could be losing up to 10 trillion shillings per year to corruption. 10 trillion shillings. Now, to put this in context, last financial year, 2023-24, the total domestic collections revenue, the total taxes collected in Uganda was 28.5 trillion shillings, 28. Now, out of 28, which we collect, 10, nearly 44%, is lost to corruption.
Kamya stated that funds vanish through bribery, embezzlement and inflated contracts, leaving hospitals without medicine, schools without books and roads in a constant state of disrepair.
This money, which is supposed to build hospitals, is taken by a few people. When you go to hospital and you don't get medicine, it is not because government has no money. Government has money, and government gives this money to a public servant who was hired to do work. Instead of taking this money to buy medicine, these public servants go and buy their own houses and beautiful cars and take their children to expensive schools. And for you, when you go to Murago, your child or your loved one dies.
Uganda has laws, anti-corruption agencies and whistleblower policies, yet enforcement remains weak.
The IG and other enforcement bodies must take decisive action against public officials found culpable of financial misconduct. IG and PPDA must work closely with the Judiciary and Directorate of Public Prosecution to ensure that audit findings result in true legal action. Accounting officers and government officials who fail to implement audit recommendations should face sanctions and penalties as provided for.
It is alleged that many corrupt officials walk free, while those who expose them face threats and intimidation.
What we have done as Procurement Regulatory Authority, we have set these guidelines and they are out there in the public. The unfortunate thing is that most of the public is slow at reading. I was even discussing with my seniors that we should now begin summarizing this law in other languages so that it's easier for people to read and understand.
Sudat Kaye.
We'll now take a short break, but we'll be returning with much more. Do stay with us.
Here's your chance to win school fees for your child for a whole year. Just pay school fees using Momo.
Hey, Mkowe High School. Na wana tufunye wo muwanguzi owa MTN Momo. Ye wangu de school fees ezo mwaka mulamba tebereza. Hey, uwulote mutima kati.
Banange sanyu byenye nali amochi wago nyanjaga nyangu wa mali wa ronze erinyo.
Esisi?
Njani awangula school fees.
Eza Momo.
Eza Momo.
Ezo mwaka mulamba.
Okumalo mwaka mulamba de musanyu.
Oh my goodness.
Banange MTN mwene yaza ne yaze.
Wanji?
Mwebale nnyo mwebalire ddala.
Nkubiriza muzadde munange yonna gy'oli. Wallahi sasulia school fees for Momo Pay.
Dial *165 *80 hash. Select option 2 for school pay. Select option 1 to pay school fees. Enter the student number and amount and approve the transaction. You will now enter the draw to win school fees for your child for a whole year.
Uganda, are you ready to kick things up to the next level? The Uganda National Lottery brings you Sports Take 10. Predict the results of 10 football games and win big. With tickets at only 500 shillings, join the fun and make your predictions count with Sports Take 10. Sports Take 10, your ticket to football glory.
Uganda National Lottery. Dream, play, win.
Participants must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. The Uganda National Lottery is operated by Ituba Uganda and regulated by the National Lotteries and Gaming Regulatory Board.
A smile that is white, fresh and beautiful is a smile to be proud of. Discover new Colgate White and Fresh for the whole family with high quality and an incredible price.
Agriculture is Uganda's economic backbone, employing about 70% of the working population and contributing 20% of the GDP. As the world becomes a digital global village, ICT has proven to increase productivity in the agricultural value chain. UWESO, through its Strategic Plan 3, recognizes the importance of access and usage of ICT-based tools, information and knowledge for farmers by providing them the needed skills to live, learn, work and participate in a digital society.
We came up with a project which we took to UWESO, and we're happy that UWESO supported it. That project is called ICT for Farmers. What do we get from ICT for Farmers? We managed to skill up to 100,000 farmers.
Welcome back from that break, and this is News Tonight here on UBC TV. I'm Rukidi Edward Kichanangoma. Moving on now, every day over 7,000 young women and men from Uganda seek better opportunities abroad, driven by the hope of securing a brighter future. However, many of them soon find themselves regretting their decision as they face physical and emotional abuse, exploitation, illegal detention, and substandard living conditions. Recently, more than 600 Ugandans have publicly shared their distress on different social media platforms calling for repatriation. Now, in lieu of this, the Chiayo Initiative Uganda is taking decisive action to repatriate over 500 Ugandan citizens who have fallen victim to human rights violations in various Arab countries. This initiative provides support, relief and a safe return to those who have suffered at the hands of unscrupulous employers and exploitative circumstances.
Away from Uganda due to various reasons, but notably to look for jobs overseas. And many of these have ended up in bad regions. For example, the regions of terrorists, Igi, Myanmar. Others have ended up not achieving what they went to do. Others have ended up in prisons. Others have ended up stranded in various deportation centers or dumped at offices or hospitals. Others even finished their employment contracts, but they have not yet been repatriated to Uganda. Some of these have even spent more than 2 years, 1 year, 3 years at various deportation and detention centers, as well as the employment offices. From December up to March, we've now repatriated more than 270 Ugandans, mainly from UAE, from Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and Saudi Arabia. Most of these people had been stranded at various deportation and detention centers. Others had finished their contracts but had not yet been repatriated by their employers, as the contracts say. Between December to March, more than 10 Ugandans have died from overseas, and we are yet to repatriate their bodies. Last week, we facilitated the repatriation of Walugembe Alex from Kuwait. There is another one who has just died from USA. Other two are still pending in Saudi Arabia, and other two are still pending in UAE. But we are in liaison with this government to work on their documents so as to be repatriated back home and given decent burials by their loved ones.
The plight of young Ugandan women and men who seek greener pastures abroad, especially in Arab countries. Now, a new debate is emerging around the issue of women's empowerment. Now, while the subject aims to ensure the well-being of women, it has also come with some negative connotations. Now, some believe that the empowerment of women is contributing to higher divorce rates and a rise in single motherhood. But many leaders and experts disagree, insisting that the causes lie elsewhere.
As women gain more independence in the workforce, education and politics, some critics have linked this shift to the breakdown of traditional marriages. However, a growing number of women leaders and relationship experts argue that these claims are misinformed and that women's empowerment is not the root cause of these social changes.
See, ignorance is so bad. Ignorance is one of the factors that undermine the struggle for gender equality and women's empowerment.
So, if women's empowerment is causing marriage breakdowns or leading to more single mothers, is there a misunderstanding of the issue? Does this mean women are walking away from marriages because they are empowered or because of long-standing issues within relationships?
Women empowerment, in my opinion, does not really connect with single motherhood. Every woman who has children with whoever person they choose to have children with always have a dream and desire that they would raise their children together.
Now, the challenge which we see is that down the road, the woman came to be treated as not a full human being in her own right. You are telling me that empowerment is leading to single mothers. Why shouldn't it lead to that single mother if the men themselves, because they were indoctrinated to think that women are not intelligent, and therefore when they see a bright woman who has come up, she's an engineer, she can fly an airplane, she can build houses, because they've been told you are a man, you are a man, you are a man. Egoistic tendency. What does you are a man mean?
Increasing number of single mothers is partially as a result of these transactional marriages that some people think they must be in a marriage because of money. And when the money is not there, they are off.
In this argument, the real causes of marriage breakdown seems more complex, involving financial stress, breakdowns in communication, or simply growing apart over time. Empowerment, they say, doesn't make women less committed to relationships but more aware of what they deserve from a partner.
I think women empowerment in the recent days has just shed a light for women to know who exactly they are and who they want to be and how and who they want to invite into their spaces or allow into their spaces.
I should say to some extent, some women have neglected their homes. Some of them have resorted to being single mothers because of the carelessness of men. Some men have totally given up on their responsibilities. When a woman works, a man thinks his duty is to marry another woman.
Miriam Matembe's perspective is that women could be leaving marriages because they are demanding healthier, more fulfilling relationships.
So those two, that level of ignorance, plus a number of things, culture and customary practices, legal inadequacy and inadequate, legal discrimination and inadequate, and you add on religious misinterpretation and misapplication. And you know, all these things have combined together to make women less of human beings.
Many women leaders point out that the rise in single motherhood is not a consequence of women being more empowered, but a reflection of societal shifts towards more equitable parenting roles. As women achieve greater financial independence, many are choosing to raise children on their own when relationships do not work out, confident in their ability to provide and nurture without relying on a partner.
Why? What kind of ignorance? If people, both men and women, were to know the value of a woman to humankind, to humanity, and its impact on the whole development of human beings, their welfare, their health, and the development of the nation in general. If they were to know that, nobody would be saying, how does women empowerment affect marriages? They would know that when you empower a woman, you have empowered a family, you have empowered society, you have empowered community to live better lives.
The idea that empowerment forces women to break up their families ignores the fact that these women are making empowered choices to ensure their children are raised in supportive and healthy environments. Matembe calls upon the public to stop blaming women for the problems that have always existed within marriage.
For us, when we came to fight for gender equality and women's empowerment, we came to fight against the factors that were constraining women and hindering them from using their talents, their wisdom to realize their full potential for their own development and development of the nation.
Go back into educating our young girls, the Ministry of Education and Mama Janet, to ensure that we actually inculcate this culture, the family values that we used to have before.
So, as we celebrate International Women's Day this year, it's clear that women's empowerment is not the cause of marriage breakdowns or single motherhood. Instead, it is a reflection of women taking control of their lives, seeking healthier relationships, and building families on their own terms. In the end, it's about creating an environment where both men and women are supported equally and where personal growth and family life can coexist harmoniously. Jane Nyiramuchia reporting for UBC.
Thank you, Jen, for that exclusive report there. Now, community members of Kikajo Kasenje village have called on government to construct their main road linking to Nakauka in order to help develop the area. During a community general cleanliness event, also known as Bulungi Bwansi, organized by Vision College, Chikajo, the area chairman, Matovu Isma Salongo, requested government support for the construction of the road, which has hindered the area's development.
Challenges faced in trying to mobilize resources village by village for the construction of the road. However, they were limited as they felt the responsibility was not entirely theirs.
Ife ne mu covid tetwafuna buyambi tibwali banabbanja naye ng'ate gavumenti tetumanyi lwaki eno abeeno tetuyamba nnyo ate nga gye tuli naffe ate ffe tugimanyi nti weera tugikiririzamu gye tukoleramu. Gyenna gisabye luguudo tufune toilet mu trading center ne nayikondo nga ebeere kumpi kubanga tulinamu ng'amasomero ag'etaaga okuyamba gali mwasaganya naye.
Community members, along with the students of Vision College,
Here's your chance to win school fees for your child for a whole year. Just pay school fees using Momo.
Hey, Nkowe High School. Na wana tufunye wo muwanguzi owa MTN Momo. Ye wangu de school fees ezo mwaka mulamba tebereza. Hey, owulira otya mutima kati.
Banange sanyu byennyina lya muntu wagonya njaganya ngo amali bwalonze erinyo.
Esisi?
Njani awangula school fees.
Eza Momo.
Eza Momo.
Ezo mwaka mulamba.
Mwaka mulamba ndi musanyu.
Oh my goodness.
Banange MTN mwenye yanza ne yanze.
Wanji?
Mwebale nnyo mwebalire ddala.
Nkubiriza muzadde munnange yonna gy'oli. Wallahi sasulia school fees for Momo Pay.
Dial *165 *80 hash. Select option 2 for school pay. Select option 1 to pay school fees. Enter the student number and amount and approve the transaction. You will now enter the draw to win school fees for your child for a whole year.
Alright, listen up. Quality is on a mission. It makes our gums happy and our teeth strong. See? We're moving forward and making changes.
It's kind of a big thing.
Colgate Herbal uses traditional nature's herbs and combines it with Colgate Science for healthy gums and strong teeth. And we'll leave no smile behind.
Welcome back. Let's have a look now at some business news. And Uganda has stepped up the fight against invasive alien species that are threatening agriculture and biodiversity. Minister of State for Agriculture, Fred Wino Chakulaga, told a high-level meeting on strengthening Uganda's capacity to manage these threats that there is need for policies and legal frameworks to combat the growing crisis. The Food and Agriculture Organization country representative, Dr. Antonio Querido, warned that invasive species have a devastating impact on food security and ecosystems.
Academicians and researchers have convened to strengthen Uganda's capacity in managing invasive species which are a threat to biodiversity, agriculture and food security.
Both wild plants and crops are equally affected to the extent that this hedge plant, the Baganda Kor or Kon, the Banyankore Kor or Yenje, bitter as it is also affected, compromised and killed away. That is how dangerous this plant can be.
The initiative, funded by European Union, the International Fund for Agricultural Development and the Center of Agriculture and Bioscience International, aims to curb the spread of destructive species.
Species include the Parthenium weed, which is commonly used for decorations. It's actually added to flowers and it is used for decorations unknowingly because people don't know that it's actually a weed. It has beautiful flowers, So people make the mistake of actually mixing it with flowers and decorate functions. Then the second weed we have been discussing about is the golden dodder. Golden dodder is commonly known as spaghetti.
The Minister for State for Agriculture, Fred Bwino Chakulaga, emphasized the urgent need for policies, legal frameworks, research and public awareness campaigns to mitigate the spread.
The most important measure is making an alarm, telling whoever minds, whoever cares to listen, that is a problem. Globally, we have very many of such species, but here in Uganda, we have identified those which are the worst.
Food and Agriculture Organization Country Representative Dr. Antonio Querido says invasive species are a global crisis.
Only talking about crops, there are also invasive species that are insects and then some of the virus that comes in that creates a lot of challenges for agri-food systems here in Uganda. Once they come, eradicate any invasive species becomes a problem.
Dr. Stephen Maguma from the Ministry of Agriculture warned that invasive species are a major risk to agri-food systems and wildlife.
They are incidentally taking over our ecosystems. Our native plants are on the decline to the extent that some of them have already faced local extinctions, which is not very good.
Uganda Wildlife Authority is currently grappling with the problem or challenge of invasive plant species in protected areas, spanning almost all the protected areas in the country: Lepo, Murchison, Lake Buro, Katonga Wildlife Reserve, Toro Semliki Wildlife Reserve, Queen Elizabeth, Wind, Mugahinga, and so on.
Senior entomologist at NARO, Dr. Kasfa Katono, said they are having community engagement programs to address the crisis.
We have a lot of initiatives in this regard. For example, regarding the management of Congress weed or Parthenium weed, which is devastating agricultural lands, rangelands and pasture lands, we always encourage to have community rearing facilities for these natural entities.
But if you involve the farmers and stakeholders in this approach, where we can obtain surveillance data, we can know that these pests have come in and can be able to identify the hotspots and go and tackle them at the hotspots where they've been identified.
So early detection, community awareness and stricter enforcement at ports and borders are strategies to control spread and protect Uganda's ecosystem. Charity Marion Imnat and Robert Bwaita for UBC.
National Water and Sewerage Corporation has signed a trade agreement with Luwero Industries Limited to supply electromechanical equipment for the reconditioning of water pumps. This collaboration aims to enhance water provision and improve service reliability by addressing the challenges associated with long-distance procurement from abroad.
Trade agreement between National Water and Sewage Corporation and Luwero Industries Limited, LIL, is expected to improve on the import substitution rate. LIL has committed to manufacturing essential electromechanical spare parts for the reconditioning of aging water pumps.
We are now saying we have had the capacity to take this process up to level 5. But we've been lacking capacity to take it up to level 7 so that the cycle is complete. Now by signing this and having gone to Luwero and seen the capacities, we are now going to go into full production process of reconditioning what? Reconditioning pumps.
These bodies have conducted joint research to assess the capacity of the UPDF's manufacturing arm, which has the potential to produce crucial water pump components that would otherwise take time to import.
There is no reason why you should wait to do things far away when you have all these brains. All these people have skills, they are educated, they know what to do, and now they have identified capacities. This is not something that we are talking about, they have seen. So we shall be able to really reduce on the time lags, complicated logistic line supplies. So it's a good thing.
National Water and Sewage Corporation aims to leverage the resources at Lille to achieve efficiency, reduce production cost, enhance in-house capacity, and ensure the timely completion of projects.
Instead of arranging for disposal of this equipment whose life can be increased, we are now going to think of how we can put it back into useful life. In our estimate, we think that we should be able to save between 30 and 40%.
Currently, some of the corporation's water pumps are not operating at full capacity, which is hindering the extension of services. The agreement is expected to address that challenge.
This collaboration is going to enable us to get those critical parts that have been failing in pumps and causing us to put aside the pump.
The capability of machinery, which is in rural industries, to make prototypes and viable products that we can now test in a live environment.
Luwero Industries Limited, building on its success, is producing UPDF equipment and expanding its business by investing in other profitable ventures while supporting the achievement of the country's National Development Plan 3, which emphasizes industrialization. Komagum Rogers and Abdul Nasir Luwama for UBC.
We'll take yet another short break and return with the latest in sports. Let's talk sports now, and we begin with cricket. Uganda's baby cricket cranes fought back on day 2 of their Easter series against visiting counterparts Tanzania under-19 to claim an 8-wicket victory. Now, the hosts had suffered a 3-wicket loss on March Day 1 as both sides continued their preparations for the under-19 World Cup qualifiers in Nigeria later this month. The baby cricket cranes posted a competitive 161 in 35 overs in their first game, but the youngsters were guilty of failing to complete their overs. Let's have a look now at corporate games as our last edition of sports news. And the 8th edition of the corporate games has officially started at the National Enterprises Corporation grounds in Bugolobi.
The 2025 Corporate Games opening outing was graced by National Enterprises Corporation Uzima Limited General Manager, Major Edgar Mugizi Akwansa.
This year we are very happy to be the hosts of the corporate games at our next playground here in Bugolobi. I want to thank the CEO and the management of the corporate games for that noble idea of bringing the corporates together to play, to share light moments, to interact, to socialize. I want to thank the CEOs who have sent in their teams who are here present also. I want to invite those who have not yet come to please come. It's good for the staff, it's good for social networking, it's good for business.
The opening day witnessed soccer and volleyball contested by all the registered 45 companies that are expected to grow to 60 by the next outing. There was a demonstration for woodball and corporate boxing, which alongside games like weapon and kart racing are on the schedule for these games that end in November.
This is season 8, and we are happy that this season we have over 45 companies that have joined us participating in the games. But also we are happy that we are adding 2 new games for this season. We have Pepena, which is a fun game that we've added. We've also added go-kart racing, which will be a racing game.
Some of the teams at the opening outing included Uganda Development Bank and Riz Medical Center, who are also the medical partners. Also on program for the corporate games this year is a one as part of its corporate social responsibility that will benefit health of this nation.
And with that, we've come to the end of this second and final edition of News Tonight here on UBC TV this Tuesday, the 4th day of March 2025. Thank you so much for having kept us company. My name is Rukide Edward Kijanangoma, wishing you a blessed night.
UBC.